Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 250th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it has, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So I'm kind of going out on a limb with this one, as some of you may have been expecting an insanely iconic, obvious must-have classic for the 250th episode of my series. But considering I've been pretty much just doing that anyways as my default, I instead opted to go in the other direction and pick one of the most underrated LPs I could think of when it comes to personal favorites from the 90s that I feel get overlooked, which comes from the Southern outfit TRU, or the Real Untouchables, with their killer third studio full-length here, 1995's TRU. This collective would see their number of members dwindle drastically over the years, far more than really any other collective I can think of, but the original lineup was comprised of course, Master P and his wife Sonia C, as well as his brothers Silk the Shocker and C Murder, Fonzo, King George, Cali G, Marquest Banks, Big Ed the Assassin, EA Ski, Daria Kelly, and CMT. At least that was the roster back in 1992, when they dropped their debut LP as a collective, Understanding the Criminal Mind, which was a year or so after they first kind of broke out as a group, when they appeared on Master P's 1991 solo debut, Getaway Clean. However, by the time 93 rolled around, TRU had gone from more than a dozen members down to just P, C Murder, Silk the Shocker, King George, Cali G, Big Ed the Assassin, and Milkman, who would only end up sticking around for the crew's sophomore effort, Who's the Killer. Milkman would end up departing before their 1995 LP here, and while there's still a good handful of original affiliates who show up on the project, it would unfortunately be the last time we would truly see the Real Untouchables in this form, because following the release of TRU, the lineup would shrink even further, leaving albums like 1997's True to the Game and 1999's The Crime Family with just the iconic trio of brothers, Master P, C Murder, and Silk the Shocker. Of course, this era would too be put to an end sort of concurrently with the fall of No Limit Records due to a number of murders, arrests, and other difficulties, the most famous of which was definitely C Murder getting life in prison for the shooting of a young fan allegedly. But like many high-profile crimes of this nature, many people close to him believe he was set up. From my view as a hip-hop fan who grew up in the 2000s, Master P and No Limit seem to be viewed in a vastly different light depending on who and where you are asking about them, because I think most hip-hop fans who know how P and the label changed the business side of the industry as a whole can recognize how important he is to the game and culture. Also, it really couldn't be a more commendable rags to riches story, because if you're familiar with where and how Master P and a lot of these guys grew up, it's pretty much considered to be a miracle if you make it to 21, let alone out at all. But despite being heavily respected and acknowledged as insanely impactful on Southern rap music, Master P and many of his artists weren't really quite as focused on some of the core values many traditional hip-hop heads held at the time, which is why I would assume No Limit wasn't nearly as popular on the East Coast in the late 90s, especially with all the other stuff going on there. At least not when compared to other areas of the country like California. I've mentioned in previous videos how acts like 8Ball and MJG or Scarface helped establish this connection between the South and the Bay Area, and in retrospect I regrettably forgot to bring Master P up in this conversation, which I wanted to remedy here as he was actually a very important piece to that puzzle. In fact, No Limit Records was famously initially founded in Richmond, California, which, fun fact, actually started off as a record store called No Limit Records and Tapes. You can also really hear why and how this connection between two places so far from each other actually came to be because there's a number of qualities that an album like TRU shares with the work of a Bay Area veteran like Spice One, for example, from the G-Funk inspired synths to the region-specific slang in both areas. Of course, Percy Miller, aka Master P, was born and raised in the 3rd Ward of Uptown New Orleans, but after dropping out from University of Houston, he relocated to Oakland, California, where he attended Merritt College to major in business administration, which, if you ask me, is a pretty fitting major for someone who would end up becoming an absolute titan of a label head and businessman. I mean, even Birdman admitted that the entire Cash Money legacy that would come up a little later wouldn't have even been possible if No Limit didn't pave the way for independent, black-owned hip-hop labels in the South, and that's coming from Baby, someone who wasn't even cool with Master P. I don't think really anyone from that label is, because of some kind of street politics behind the scenes, but you have to remember Birdman isn't exactly the most humble person in the world. But back to the LP at hand, while the roster may have been whittled down, it gets built back up through a number of quality, No Limit affiliated features, outside of the former Real Untouchables I mentioned earlier in the video, with guest appearances from Mia X, Carmen Taylor, Mr. Servon, Tobin Caston, and Sibo, another Bay Area legend. However, we get an even larger amount of producers who worked on the stellar instrumentals here, including Al Baby Jesus Eden, Kenneth Darnell Franklin, Master P himself, Moby Dick, Craig, DJ Daryl, Larry D, CMT, Silk the Shocker, and EA Ski. When it comes to my honorable mentions on this one, I trimmed it down to tracks like Last Dance, That's How We Break Bread, Living That Life, Watch Your Ass, Ain't No Glock, True Players, 3 Strikes, Keep It Jumpin', Walk Like a Killer, and Would You Take a Bullet for Your Homie. Then for my top 3 favorite songs overall, I had to go with Mobbin' Through My Hood, Another Day, Another Dollar, and the iconic I'm Bout It, Bout It, which I believe this is the original version of. Thank you for watching my 250th video, and especially thank you to anyone who stuck with me this far. Next up, we're returning to New York to cover another legendary 90s outfit, so look out for that upload, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite moments are off this No Limit classic. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.